BitCraft Online is a brand new sandbox MMORPG from indie studio Clockwork Labs, and is doing things very differently. The devs are ambitious in that they made the decision to actually release the game instead of being in perpetual alphas for a decade, playable with a modest sum of $120 of course. BitCraft is about building civilization from the ground up, farming, crafting, and building all in one seamless world shared by everyone. Unfortunately, there's a slight problem with their ambition in that all of the info of the game is scattered across extremely lengthy and detailed blog posts, as well as hour-long streams and Q&As. So understanding what the game actually is can be a little bit of a problem. I've gone through all these posts and all these streams for you, and in this video we'll get into the core gameplay and features of BitCraft, explaining what it is, how it plays, and why it might just be the next big sandbox MMO. As an overview, BitCraft Online takes place in a single persistent world. No servers, no shards. Everyone plays in the same procedurally generated map. The world is split up into regions, which host the players, as well as the land that they can claim for settlements and empires. Unlike the Final Fantasy XIV housing crisis, it won't take them 2 years to add 5 more plots, however, as the developers can scale up additional regions as needed in an instant. Regions can be traveled to in manner of waystone or physically crossing over. The terrain is fully editable, meaning that players won't just explore the world, they'll carve out their piece, reshape it to how they see fit.
You give the public a shovel, they dig dicks.
And once they've sculpted their pieces of land, it's time to place the pillars of civilization on top to stand tall and proud. There is nothing pre-built, so everything from settlements, farmland, roads, bridges, and large thriving cities are all player created and driven, much like exploring something like Worm Online. BitCraft is, at its heart, a survival crafting MMO, leaning towards the cozy end of the spectrum with a huge cooperative focus. Fans of skilling in games such as Palia or RuneScape should feel right at home here, as you'll need to work together with other players to find success in building up a settlement. There's 3 layers of design here that are all connected with each other: players, settlements, and empires. Starting from the perspective of the player, there are currently 12 professions in the game that are structured to encourage players to specialize in certain areas while relying on others for complementary jobs and resources. At its most basic level, you might want to build a structure that needs stone and wood. So you send out your forester to gather wood for your carpenter to process, and your miner to get stone for your mason. But also they can get ore for your blacksmith to make better tools for everyone to do things faster until he gets hungry and needs to grab some fish from the fisher to cook, while they pick up some fish oil to take it back to the carpenter who needs to treat some planks for the farmer who needs to upgrade their farm, as they run out of space for the cotton to be used by the tailor to make sails so your tarn can make a ship so your scholar can explore easier. What was I saying again? Oh, right. So in addition to those professions, you also have 6 skills, such as taming, cooking, and merchanting, all designed to be trained in breadth instead of depth, providing more permanent character-oriented bonuses and quality of life improvements such as mounts, vehicles, and other account-wide upgrades. Each skill and profession levels up as you use it, up to a soft cap of 100 and a hard cap of up until the next Flavor of the Month MMO drops. As you get mastery in a profession, you'll unlock higher tiers of gathering and crafting, as well as some fantastic looking profession outfits. Breaking it down simply, crafting works by converting tier 1 resources into tier 1 items, used to create, say, a tier 1 tool. But to make a tier 2 tool, you need to use tier 2 resources, turned into tier 2 items, as well as a previous tier 1 tool. A tier 3 tool consumes a tier 2 tool, and so on. You can either make these yourself or source it from trading. This funneling system prevents the design issue where higher level players can just crank out high level items and make lower level players feel worthless. Additionally, as an added endgame chase mechanic, each time you upgrade, you have a small chance of upgrading the tool's rarity permanently. This accumulates, kind of like a Korean MMO enchantment system, but without the shitty break chances and downgrading. This means that all items of all tiers have value, and as new players come into the game, they can engage with the game systems and trading without feeling a massive wall of a grind before they can contribute meaningfully to settlement or someone else's grind. Combat isn't a focus of the game, but has had its foundations expanded since the most recent alpha tests. It's still pretty basic click to attack, but has been modified for accuracy, evasion, strength, and armor, as well as enemy debuffs. These are more fundamental changes with the aim to iterate on later. As of right now, there is no direct PvP such as beating the crap out of your fellow man, but instead the game offers competition through economies and the social systems, which I'll be describing shortly. One final thing to make note of is that player-owned housing also exists. Settlements will be able to build housing for you to reside in and customize. Everything is saved and owned by you as well, so if you decide to move out of your player-owned house to another settlement, you can hire 2 guys in a truck and move along. Okay, so that's the characters and players. Now, there's settlements and there's empires. This is a common misunderstanding for the game, so I'm going to try and break it down really clearly here. Settlements are the land claim system in the game. If you've ever played PAX Die or Worm Online, it's that. You place a claim on the ground and you can choose which tiles your settlement will own. Once you claim the land, you'll own it until your upkeep expires. Anyone can place a settlement, and this is not a real money system. Upkeep is in the way of supplies through trading and resource packs from crafting. Think of V Rising. This is also not a real money system. As settlements become larger, the upkeep becomes more and more expensive in terms of manpower to maintain. This makes it so settlements will grow and shrink to the size of their community. Larger communities will have naturally larger cities and vice versa. Settlements are where you will place and upgrade workstations for professions and advance in tech trees to build more structures that unlock new systems. For example, a mature settlement can build a marketplace which acts as an auction house centralized around that settlement, with both buy offers and sell offers rather than the individual player stalls that you normally trade with. An even more advanced city can create their own Waystone teleporter for fast travel. Settlements themselves are designed to be public spaces and encourage social play rather than private. For example, the settlement will mint hex coins, gold, when their crafting stations are used by anyone, or people place their player housing. Keep in mind, this generates money automatically. Players do not need to pay rent or taxes or anything like that. Owners can then use that income to buy resources from marketplaces, even from its own marketplace, and players to then expand and grow more advanced. Now you might think this creates a system where one settlement will reign supreme over an entire region due to being either really large or centrally accessible, and while hubs will exist as people do flock to larger cities, there exists a biome system to incentivize spreading out and creating niches. Starting biomes will have access to low-tier resources across the board, but if you want to get access to higher-tier ores and stone to create higher-tier masonry and blacksmithing items, for example, you'll either need to settle near a mountain-based biome further out, or trade with a settlement who has easier access to those resources with something of your own that they might need themselves. This creates an organic supply and demand for settlements, forming relationships between them which you can then even support further by building roads between towns. On top of that, individual players are never married to one settlement. They can actually join more than one and use any in a whole network or whole region. Also, to be clear, this isn't some developer keynote fantasy to sell a Kickstarter with $500 packages. This is literally what happens in the most recent alpha. It exists. Now that we've defined settlements, let's look at empires. Empires are a monetized social system that creates zones of influence on parts of the region visible for everyone to see on the world map. This system is entirely cosmetic. When an empire owns an area, the settlements and players within that area do not need to interact with the empire at all if they wish. The empire has no control at all. They can even go support a neighboring empire if they get bribed or something. So what's the value of an empire? Well, it's purely intrinsic. The emperor gets a literal crown that grows with their influence. Members wear a cape marking their allegiance. Down the line, the developers are looking to add more things, such as exclusive outfits for nobles within that empire. To create an empire, you must purchase hexite shards, the game's paid microtransaction currency. To grow larger, you need to purchase a hexite capsule with more hexite shards. Place it down in the next area you want to capture, and have your citizens feed it resources and supplies, similar to a settlement. The supplies themselves cannot be bought, only the hexite capsule itself. As the empire gets larger, it gets harder and harder logistically to transport these resources to grow more. Similarly, putting a cap on the scale of the empire based on its citizens rather than bankrolling. Unless you're going to start paying players to play it, like EVE Online, which someone probably will. If your border clashes with another empire, you can use a Hexite capsule to attack them, creating a war of attrition with supplies. Winner takes the spot, and the loser is pushed back and the capsule is spent. With the so-called war being a lengthy and expensive process, diplomacy naturally happens amongst bordering empires and things kind of go from there. They exist to create emergent social gameplay between groups and give something to rally behind and work towards. Things such as a literal United Nations with a democratic voting system for major products between major empires. You don't even need to pay to join one. The only reason to pay to run one is for large organized guilds and for egotistical content creators and streamers. On a totally unrelated note, join the Discord. We play MMOs and we're getting ready to play BitCraft. Like, subscribe. On the topic of Hexite shards, you'll be able to use them to buy cosmetic items such as outfits. These items that you buy will be tradable, alongside the Hexite capsules themselves. This does create a potential route for direct paying for power or resources through trading other players, but also opens up empires and any stored cosmetics to free-to-play players as well. The world of MMORPGs today feel like single-player games with social systems tacked on. I mean, RuneScape literally has a critically acclaimed solo game mode. This is opposed to the old-school design of social interactions first with a game built around it afterwards. Everything from the ground up in this game is designed to create organic social play with the players around you. With that being said, I cannot overstate how important it is to join a community to play with. You can absolutely play solo, and the game allows you to do that, without even joining or making a settlement. But as a sandbox, BitCraft will be at its best when you're working together alongside other people. In the description, I'll link my own community who are keen on playing, as well as the BitCraft official server. There you'll find large empires, groups of like-minded individuals, language-specific servers, or even people with specific goals like raising an entire biome to the floor because they can. That covers all the major pieces. There's a lot of game here, and that gross P word everyone likes to throw at games nowadays, potential. Ugh, dirty. I'm pretty keen on this game, so do like and subscribe if you want to see more of it. The game is having a free-to-play playtest on May 29th, which you can join through Steam with the link in the description. It then enters early access on June 20th. Early access will be paid entry for 30 USD, but also grants the equivalent in Hexite shards. And then finally, when the game releases, it'll be fully free to play. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Probably on the 29th.